we measure progress by the speed of our machines or by the depth of our thinking? Welcome to the great indoors, in a world where technology is no longer confined to the IT department, but sits in the hands of every employee, every marketeer, every creator. We're witnessing something profound. And that's not just a shift in tools, but a redefinition of who gets to build what, who gets to lead what, and ultimately, who gets to tell the story. I'm your host, Matthew Roberts, and as always and ever, I'm joined by my trusty, reliable producer, the one and only Miss Larissa Yee. Now, we're again, as you should know, the ones that tune in every week, we're back in Barcelona for season 12, and this is episode 6. And if there's a single theme cutting through the noise of Mobile World Congress this year, well, it's this. Intelligence is no longer scarce. Access is. The real differentiator now is how we harness it. So today's episode brings together two perspectives that sit at the very heart of that transformation. And first, we have Kathleen Mitford, Corporate Vice President of Global Industry Marketing at Microsoft. A leader who has traversed engineering, product, strategy, and now marketing, Kathleen sits at the intersection of technology and storytelling, working with industries across the globe to help organizations evolve into what Microsoft calls frontier firms. Sounds cool, that, doesn't it? Businesses where AI isn't just a tool for efficiency, but a catalyst for entirely new growth models. Also helping me with the interview with Kathleen today is Amdocs' very own head of partnerships, Liliana Schwartz Bruner, who's been on the show many times already. And what's striking in this conversation is not just the scale of ambition, but the intimacy of application. From marketeers building their own AI agents to reducing regulatory cycles from weeks to hours to a world where even a 10-year-old can write code. So it's no longer just about digital transformation, it's about cognitive transformation. And alongside Kathleen, we're joined by a frequent flyer to the great indoors, Chris Antlis, analyst at TBR, Technology Business Research, a trusted advisor of ours, and one of the sharpest lenses on the telecom and technology markets. And Chris's job is normally to bring us back down to earth. Because when the narrative around AI is accelerating at breakneck speed, the reality is more nuanced. Yes, we're seeing policy shifts, infrastructure investment, and geopolitical forces shaping the industry in real time. AI is becoming a strategic priority at the highest levels of government and enterprise. But we're also seeing recalibration, whether in SaaS valuations, SaaS-mageddon, data center constraints, or the simple question of power. Can the world actually sustain the infrastructure required to deliver on this AI promise? And perhaps most importantly, Chris highlights something we don't talk about at all, certainly not enough, the quiet erosion of the apprenticeship model. Fewer entry-level roles, flatter pyramids, a workforce being reshaped not through mass layoffs, but just through absence. So that was a long intro this week, but that is what sits in this episode, and that's the tension between empowerment and disruption, creativity and constraint, and between the promise of AI and the reality of building it at scale. And that's it. It's all still profoundly human. So let's get going. So we're back. MWC 2026, the great indoors continues here in season 12. And we have a fantastic guest joining us now on the podcast from Microsoft. Her name is Kathleen Mitford, and she's a Corporate Vice President, Global Industry Marketing at Microsoft. So welcome to the great indoors, Kathleen.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. I know how busy and how crazy it is, so thank you very much. And also joining me as a co-host, and she's been on the show many times, very experienced, Liliana Schwartz Bruner from Amdocs, our head of global partnerships.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back.
Happy to have Kathleen with me.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So for all listeners, Kathleen, give us a bit of a history of yourself, your role, and what you're doing here this week.
Oh gosh, a history of myself. That may take a while, but Yes, so I've been in the tech industry for a very long time in a variety of different roles between product management, strategy, engineering, and now marketing. At Microsoft, I lead marketing for a global industry. So what that means is we work very closely with our customers and our partners, such as Amdocs, to understand what's happening in the industry and how together can we help our customers on their transformation journeys. So it's really exciting to be here at Mobile World Congress this week and the engagements that we're having in telcos in understanding where they are on that journey to become a frontier telco.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I must say, I love having a marketeer, as a marketeer myself, on the podcast. It always gives me an extra insight into things that I do. Now, you've worked across a number of different areas in your career. How has the definition of technology leadership changed over the years? And what is it now, do you believe?
Well, I think back to when I first started my career a very long time ago, and technology leadership was reserved for technologists, for the IT department. But how do we define a technologist today? With tools like AI and agents, everybody can build their own technology. My 10-year-old son, he uses GitHub Copilot, to write code.
Yeah.
So I think that technology leadership has evolved to not being something that is reserved just for that IT organization, but using IT and AI to empower all of us to be makers, to really drive innovation in every role, in every person, because the technology is so accessible to us.
And you have a dichotomy in regards to this, because you're a marketeer who wants to use the technology and build things, but you're also marketing the products and services on behalf of Microsoft. So do you find, let's start with your own personal and your marketing teams. How are you approaching it now as far as using it as an instrument, as they say?
You hit the nail on the head, because at Microsoft, we consider ourselves to be frontier marketers. We are customer number one for the tools that Microsoft uses. So we're using AI to transform how we do marketing within my organization. So allowing us to use the tools to get better insights into our customers, to use AI to really drive that connection between marketing and sales, and to be able to respond at a speed that is at the speed of consumers and in speed of customers, instead of having to wait and lag until all of the data is available for us. And I think that's something that's, actually pretty exciting about being a marketer, is the speed of what we can move, the access to data that we have, and how that allows us to drive insights which have a positive impact on revenue for the company.
And I want to add on top of what you just said, because Amdocs is going hand in hand with Microsoft into strategy of frontier firm. And I can say firsthand that how much you impact even our marketing people, because you help us to think differently, to access the data, how we use the copilots. It's all coming from you, and we're thankful for that. Thank you for that.
But we're thankful for the partnership with Amdocs as well. And I think it's really important what you said there about Amdocs becoming a frontier organization. And when we say a frontier organization it is a company that is using AI for every employee in their organization, every function, and every business process. But not only to make us more productive, but to really look at it as to how can we be different? How can we drive revenue growth from new products, new services, new business models, because of capabilities that we didn't have before that AI now makes available to us.
And also what I think is interesting about that point, if you're enabling your teams to really harness the productivity benefits of AI, you're then allowing their brains to be used in different directions. And as creative marketeers, that's invaluable, right?
Oh my goodness, that is so invaluable. Think about it. As marketeers, as you mentioned, we're creative types. my team didn't go into marketing to do, repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
So using AI frees up time for us to think more creatively, to think more strategically, to spend more time, quite frankly, on the reason why we got into marketing in the first place.
And can you give any examples? I've got lots of examples of what I do with my team is, rather than be prescriptive, I say, I want you to use it for X, Y, and Z. I ask them to be AI curious. Just like find something. There's no manual, there's no playbook, there's no script. Figure out how it works for you. Are you seeing those examples at Microsoft?
Absolutely. I love that. AI curious. My team is an AI curious team as well. Yeah. And really what we've done, because with Microsoft, we serve many different industries, telco being one of the top ones, but healthcare, financial services, industrial. Yeah. And the needs for a healthcare marketer are going to be very different than an education marketer, which are going to be different for somebody working in the manufacturing and mobility space. One of my favorite examples that I never would have been able to think of, like sitting in my role, is one of my healthcare marketers created a legal agent. So if you think about regulated industries, everything that we publish from a marketing content needs to make sure that it meets Microsoft's commitments for that industry, but then also regulations within the industry. So our legal reviews could take 7 to 10 times, and that's 7 to 10 half-hour meetings, another an hour or 2 hours to revise the content. So one of my healthcare marketers created a legal agent to be able to take the content, feed it into the agent, and say, does it apply? Does it meet Microsoft's regulations, and does it meet the government regulations? Yeah. And they've been able to cut their reviews with legal from 7 to 10 down to 1 or 2. Think about that.
Amazing, right? Those examples are just amazing. I mean, sometimes we use like this agent and different tools that we use together to prove in times and times more than we can ever imagine. We could see like sometimes we are using some of our agents and with the customers, and we can see that they're liking it so much that like instead of call centers, the holy call centers, they get the answers even before they call, because if we knew in advance that if something happened, we could just advise them. And if we know who is the customer, so we know what he prefers, so we know like how to address that even before it happened, right? It's like you can use this data and in this era in so many creative ways all around, right?
Absolutely. And not even within one function, such as marketing, but as I mentioned before, the connection between the marketing organization and the sales organization. We both get different types of insights about the customers that we serve. So being able to use an agent to look at what we're hearing from marketing, what we're hearing from marketing research, what the marketing data tells us, but then also from sales on the signal on what they're seeing from pipeline, and combining the two of that together in real time. Yeah. And I think a really important component of that is access. Access, and making that access to data, of course, with the right security, the right privacy, but accessible to anyone without having to go and, request a report or things like that.
And again, we've come back to the dichotomy here, because we've been talking about how, as marketeers, your use cases need to be specific, and there needs to be that high level of, if you like the great example about marketing to legal is different to marketing to healthcare, for example. But even in the solutions that Microsoft and Amdocs in the AI realm put out, they have to be industry specific as well, not just what we're doing marketing as. So when you look at our AOS announcement that we've done, where it's the first agentic telco specific solution, and I guess that's exactly what Microsoft is seeing when you're putting out solutions into the industry.
Absolutely. AI, more than any other technology, needs to be industry specific. Yeah. And that's why we're so excited about Amdocs and AOS and what you've built for the technology industry. Yeah. Because the use cases that we're seeing are going to be very different from telco to education to other industries. And when customers look to get value, there may be some common use cases that are efficiency. We probably all use Teams to summarize, or use Copilot in Teams to summarize the meeting. That's not, industry specific. It's hugely valuable. But how I am using AI to help an educator, create a lesson plan, that's going to be very different than how in healthcare a doctor and a patient interact. So those are examples of industry specific.
And just to add on top of it, I think that's how you gain trust. When you bring someone that really specializes, deep specialization in one domain, that's when you're actually getting more trust because you're getting better results, better outcomes, right? So I think you understand domain using your software, your AI, but with, verticals like us, telecommunication verticals, you gain more trust.
Yes, I love that you said the word trust and you said outcomes in the same sentence, because that's what it is all about. It's using the intelligence of the data, the trust in the systems, the trust in the relationships to focus on the customer outcomes. And that's why Microsoft really appreciates the partnership with Amdocs. You have deep depth of the outcomes that customers and the telco industry are looking for. So when we combine our platform with your industry-specific domain knowledge and tools like AOS, that's what allows customers to not only achieve business outcomes, but to achieve them at speed.
What you said.
Absolutely. Now, and I'm going back, and I'm conscious of your time, because I know you have to run to a meeting, Kathleen, but how do you feel going back to marketing? We talked right at the beginning on how a technology leader's role has changed over the years. How is the role of the CMO about to change?
I'm not sure if it's about to change or it's already changed. Is marketing has become a strategic role within an organization. And again, we like to think of ourselves as strategic within marketing always, but now more so than ever. And bringing it back to what do companies want to do as they embark on AI to become frontier organizations? It's all about driving growth for the company. And I do believe as marketers, the insights that we get from data combined with the intelligence of leveraging AI allows us to provide better information to our company and to the sales teams, not only to the sales teams on, what they should be selling at a very personalized level, to the engineering team on what are our customers looking for by a specific, and then us as marketers being able to respond very quickly on our marketing messages and our marketing activations based upon what's happening. So I think marketing is becoming even more strategic within organizations because of the power of AI.
I could not agree more. I think right now with the power of AI, knowing how to tell the story, there's so much confusion, I think, is happening. But when you know how to tell the stories with it here, you know what we're giving them. What is the outcome? You help us, even as a salespeople, to say the right things, to get to the right audience, to explain to the right audience in a simple way what they're getting out of whatever we created. So it's so important now, more than ever before.
I completely agree with you. And then also think about, with AI, we talk about human intelligence. As a marketer, you may not be an expert on a specific domain, but you can train your model to be. You can train your agent to be. So now as a marketer, you can say, I'm meeting with this type of persona in this type of company in this vertical. Test my messaging for it.
Perfect.
Or
Perfect
even
example.
The example I like to think of is, as marketers, you have requirements for a product or a service. So you just to build your marketing requirements, hand it to the IT team. They would build something. There would always be a disparity, and there would always be. Now, I don't think marketeers are going to vibe code the solutions they need, but they're going to be able to articulate what they need better and even prototype what they need, so that then what they hand to the technical teams, that it creates a better harmony, right?
Yes, and I'll add to that as well. There's a lot that you can do with agents and building your own agents. So us empowering marketers to build agents to meet the tools, to meet their needs. Because yes, there's there's absolutely things we'll always need IT to build for us, but it makes it so much more easy and accessible for us to build our own tools because AI is so easy to use.
Right. Well, we're out of time. I've really enjoyed the conversation, Kathleen, Liliana. Thank you very much. Any last messages from either of you before we sign off today?
I just want to say, Liliana and Matt at Microsoft, we really appreciate the partnership with Amdocs. And thank you for not only the partnership with Microsoft, but the way that we can serve our customers better together. So thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for being here with us today. And absolutely, we thrive with Microsoft. I think we're better together. And I think, a lot of great things are still ahead of us together.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So welcome back to The Great Indoors, Season 12, live here in MWC Barcelona 2026. And you can probably hear the music behind me. It's the end of day 2. There's a big party going on the booth. Everyone's having fun. And we're not partying, we're going to talk. We're going to talk business. And I'm joined by someone who's been on the podcast many times. He's a very close advisor and confidant of Amdocs from TBR, Mr. Chris Analyst. Chris, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm a little tired, but it's to be expected.
You've got 2 more or 1.5 days left.
1.5.
When'd you fly home?
Thursday evening. Fly Thursday. Yeah, I got a direct.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I just take that.
Yeah. So let's dive straight into it. We're into day 2. I always feel me and you talk about different things than I talk with most customers or vendors about. We can be a little bit more objective about the entire
Let's do it.
market. So there's a big situation going on right now. Well, we won't get into that, but the one thing that you and I always talk about and we read is the administration in the United States and how that's affecting the industry in general. What's your current thoughts on that?
So actually, it's been very good for the industry over the last year, and I'll give you a couple of examples. One thing is the Big Beautiful Bill.
What?
That brought tax incentives for CapEx, depreciation incentives. It brought spectrum policy changes that were much needed. It brought clarity over direction. There was also Howard Lutnick, the Chamber Commerce Secretary. He was involved with the BEAD funding changes to go from all fiber to access medium agnostic, which is a big deal because now they opened the aperture to allow a much greater portion for fixed wireless access.
Right, what?
And satellite obviously will be used as well. It doesn't make sense to deploy fiber everywhere. It's just not cost effective. So those policy changes are actually really important. And that happened in the last 12 months.
That's really interesting. And how is that, when we look at AI with those policy changes as well, how is the administration, do you think, accepted AI? We hear lots of sound bites and, we're super positive. Has there been anything in that has helped advocate the cause of AI?
They're absolutely involved with the AI. It's a strategic priority. You can just look at Palantir and how much traction that they've gotten, but it goes beyond Palantir. I mean, you see the news now, there's all this thing about the Pentagon and Anthropic.
Yeah.
Now you have OpenAI in the mix.
Yeah.
Those are the things that come to mind, but obviously there's other things going on with the AI as well that is talked about, or you might get a dribble of some information that comes out about it, but they're absolutely looking at it, and they have to because adversaries are doing it. And there's a time to market, consideration here that's extremely important. So, the geopolitical factors, it's extremely important. Yes, it is a top priority of the administration.
Now, I remember you came and briefed us in January. All the teams in I think it was all in North America that we had a big briefing. And I remember saying to you, give us your big prediction, Chris, for this year.
Yeah, so
that was 2 months ago. Not even 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And I remember your big prediction at the time, and it was very much around, we talked about the market recalculation or recalibration in it, but you also rose an interesting point about power.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. In the last 2 months then, how's your thoughts changed and on that prediction?
On the power, so one thing is the administration, I'll bring it up again, they're allowing the hyperscalers to put power on site. They're allowing them to build power plants on site or near the data centers. And that's a profound policy change. They also made some changes to nuclear policy, but that's a multi-year. That's further down the road to see the impact of that. But basically what you have is hyperscalers are looking at natural gas is a major input.
Gas.
Powering natural gas generators. Massive investment in that to run those data centers. And we have the pipelines, we have the resources, and that stuff's flowing.
Yeah. Now, another thing we talked about at the time, and I think I raised this as a prediction, was there would be a recalibration, like I said, a revaluation of the overinflated stock prices in some of the AI companies. And what we've seen is, what's the word? SaaSmageddon, right? In the last few weeks.
Right.
We've seen everything crash on the software as a service stocks particularly, which kind of, we know where it came from, but what are your thoughts on that? That was another thing that was something we would have never have predicted.
So the SaaS valuations were already stretched. So this is more of like just a pullback. Structurally speaking, AI is going to impact a lot of those businesses, but some are going to be impacted far more than others. Some of them have enough staying power, and actually AI is actually going to help them evolve as a company. So you can't put them all in the SaaS bucket, which is what a lot of people are doing. There's a lot of dispersion in there, and there's going to be winners and losers, right? And we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. It's not just SaaS though. In the financial services, there's risk modeling and trading, and there's all kinds of other areas, facets of the market, the economy, where you're going to see that disruption sooner rather than later.
Now, the other thing that's come out, and it was partly responsible for SaaSmageddon, that we were kind of aware of, but we didn't realize the impact. And the term, I hate the term, and I've heard better terms already this week, but the term that's sticking is vibe coding. And for a company like ourselves, which is software companies specializing in telephones, particularly around managed services, what's your thought on the Anthropic Claude Code and then the Codex releases that again caused these massive impacts to the financial markets?
So AI is going to be profoundly impact everything. Every facet of our life will be impacted at some point by AI. I think that's table stakes. The question is what, when, and how.
Yeah.
That part we don't know. So when you see SaaSmageddon happening, that's because people are overestimating, or that's their collective estimation at this point in time of what they think it's going to play out.
Yeah.
But the herd is usually wrong, right? And it's going to take different shapes and forms as it evolves over time. Yeah. We just don't know yet. We don't know.
But I mean, like, as a technologist yourself, have you experimented with vibe coding? Because I've heard lots of journalists and analysts say, okay, I read about it, and then I played with it, and holy shit, this is going to change everything. Have you got your hands into it yet, or really had a good look at it? And it is still very hot off the press, if you will.
So what is your definition of vibe coding, just so I'm being clear?
So vibe coding is basically through a general language narrative, creating code to produce something. So if I ask Claude Code to say, build me a website that represents me, or build me an app that will do this in non-technical vernacular, it turns the code around for me.
So I think we're overestimating what it can do, but it will be very significant. Certain things you can do now. So for example, like we're doing a podcast right now, sound. You can use AI models from various tools that are out there to make amazing professional grade sound for someone who's an amateur. And these tools are widely available, and I've actually used some of those tools. I know that they work. I've seen the before and after. So those types of things exist now. I think the broader thing where it becomes more embedded in our lifestyle, and it's like doing mundane tasks for us or augmenting us in like a more significant way. I think we're maybe a year out before we really see some of those things. Right now, I think it's more, hey, this is coming and we're experimenting with it. But I haven't really seen anything profoundly impactful yet. It's coming. It's coming soon.
But no, you made a great point then. We know it's coming. We know it's going to be profound. It's just where and when, and it's that time scale, right? It could be more gradual, it could be more instantaneous, it could be very much more nuanced. And I think that's the narrative we see. There's two big narratives I see, and they're both at the either end of the spectrum. The narrative that says there's a lot of hype, overvalued stock, we don't really think it's that much of a hit. And then there's the Armageddon spectrum, end of the spectrum, that says this is going to lose everybody's jobs, it's going to change everything, etc. Now we know both of those two extremes are not a reality. Where do you sit on the spectrum as far as where we are now? And you're normally pretty bullish, Chris, on new technologies as the Horace. That I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there definitely will be job dislocation. There's no question. It's already happening. There is job dislocation. But the scope of it, is it, were you going to ask something?
I was just going to say, is it happening, or is it the rationale for efficiency cuts that we've seen in the industry for many years? So now they can say, oh, well, it's because we're using AI.
Yeah, so Block just announced like 40% of their headcount was laid off because of AI, quote unquote. In those cases, no, I'm sorry, that's not the case. They were having business problems, and they covered it over with the AI, wrapper. But I think we are already seeing clear changes in pyramid structures for coding. So on the bottom end, and for consulting, we see it. So for example, for coding, and for consulting, you're using the AI to augment the more senior staff to do some of the tasks that they would have outsourced to the lower staff on the pyramid. We're seeing pyramid inversions now. And this is something, that is happening now. I've observed this, and it's really about, instead of laying people off, we're just hiring fewer junior staff is really what we're seeing. So there's fewer jobs available, but there's not like mass layoffs. So you're not seeing that directly from AI, but you are seeing fewer job postings for more entry-level type roles.
So the apprenticeship, if you will, is being eroded.
Yes, that is happening now, and we are seeing that across several industries now.
Wow. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. And then, when we talk about, I remember something that you always bring up is satellite. And what's the impact right now on the industry as a whole from satellite? It's being marketed like never before. It's out there. I was with the CEO of Globe this morning, and Starlink is such a key strategy for Globe in the Philippines, which of course is a completely different geography and demographics to the United States. But how do you see that playing out from where we were just 2 years ago?
So the satellite, I remain really bullish on the opportunities there. There's some geopolitical challenges in space because it's a free-for-all. It's a Wild West. There's also a lot of space junk up there. And you have particles that get pulverized and they break into a lot of fragments, and then they're running at very high speed. They can be. So you have that stuff that has to be considered. But with that said, there is clearly an opportunity for satellite. You see Starlink buying spectrum from EchoStar. Like, there's a reason they're buying all that spectrum. Like, they're going to be building facilities-based carrier. They're going to be the fourth carrier in the States, at least in the States. And then in other countries, they're going to be a full, they're going to offer the same type of services, voice, data, text, through their own pipes, through their own satellite pipes system. So, and they have AST Space Mobile, which is more of a wholesale model, working in partnership with the telcos. You have Amazon Leo, you have Global Star out there, you have a lot of players. I think there's going to be some consolidation, there's going to be some bankruptcies. But we see this with every fledgling market where you have a lot of players chasing the opportunity. But yeah, we're going to see more and more.
And the one question I ask you every year, and we look at, and we're only at the end of day 2. What have you seen so far in your team? You may not have had a lot of opportunities to see anything, running around from meeting to meeting, but what do you feel is the underlying theme, something that seems prevalent and a little bit surprising in the show so far?
Yeah, so agentic AI, clearly that's a lot being talked about, but I'm gonna go beyond that, something separate. 3 things. The theme, sovereignty.
As in, like AI sovereignty, where France is building their own LLMs and wants to be less reliant on US-based software companies, basically.
Yes, the AI part, but far beyond that.
Even into the cloud?
And beyond.
And beyond into...
software, who's doing what, who's doing your coding, where are they located, what is their nationality. Like it goes very deep. People like put a blanket term of sovereign AI, sovereign cloud. But it goes, once you start pulling the layers back, it goes really deep.
So we're talking from even to the level of, offshoring back to inshoring.
There's some of that, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, and you've seen that in the show so far, or that's just a contemporary thing that you think?
Let's put it this way, it's coming under consideration from what I've seen. It's definitely part of the equation. It depends on what it is, right? If it's national security stuff, absolutely. But even below that, like enterprise data and, how is that being handled? And governments are concerned. You saw, like, for example, in the UK, you had the Land Rover breach, right? That cybersecurity incident. I heard estimates that it came up in some conversations that there were several $1 billion in lost value from that incident. Lost sales, impact to suppliers, brand impact. That, if you look at the UK, like, if you look at the supply chain and trace it back, like, even a company like Land Rover touches such a large portion, much larger than people would automatically think. So you have concern that's out there, like, what is our resiliency of our infrastructure? What's our cyber posture? Like, who's doing what? Like, questions are being asked. And that's the first step to changes being affected. And we'll see where that goes, but clearly the pendulum is swinging further in that direction.
That's really interesting, So that was point 1. You had 3 points that you've seen so far.
Similar to that, so resiliency, and then trust. Who do you trust? So, and trust, several ways to think about this. So the trade situation, the changing trade policies created trust issues between allies and non-allies. You have trust over data.
But do you think that lends itself to the sovereignty in point 1?
It does. It's interlinked. So those are the themes. If I had to give it keywords or buzzwords, those would be the things that I keep hearing about.
And what have you seen from any of the vendors? Or I'll tell you what I've noticed, and I spoke with Dan McAvoy from Qualcomm yesterday. Have we seen so many robots and the physical manifestation of AI in previous years? I feel that, and I haven't seen hardly anything, but it feels, just in my line of sight, it feels pretty...
So I've looked at a lot of the robots. I'm going to be very honest. The level of advancement from what I saw last year at the show to this year, I didn't see anything really different. Now, if you look at certain companies like Boston Dynamics, for example, and you look at their robots, I didn't see them on the floor here, but I follow them separately, as part of my job. And there I have seen clear advancement. So I think you're seeing dispersion, and you're seeing certain companies that have clear wind at their backs, and they have the advancement, the innovation that you can clearly see that they've come a long way over the last year. But on the floor here, I'm seeing robots doing very, very basic tasks, like picking up a bottle. Like I saw that last year. That's not new. And honestly, I see them making mistakes still.
Yeah.
I don't see them moving faster than I saw last year. Like when they do their little walk, the shuffle, I haven't seen them move faster.
Yeah.
The nimbleness of them, their movement, I haven't seen a major difference. Boston Dynamics, yes, but on the floor here, and I've seen a bunch of different robots all across the floor, the halls, I haven't really seen much of a difference.
So, do you think it's still very much an AI underlying theme this year as far as what's coming from most of the builds?
It is, and I'm a little concerned because I hear about the AI, but I'm not seeing advancement that I thought I'd see in the agentic side. ChatGPT type stuff, yes, that is becoming more integral. But when we start to go beyond that, those chat interfaces, we're not really seeing major traction. We're seeing a lot of POC still and pilots and tinkering experiments. We're not really seeing integration in commercial production environments. We're not really seeing that yet.
And even from the telecom or the telco or service provider community, are we seeing them really embracing AI workflows to improve productivity and efficiency, or is it still being talked about?
On the telco sector,
Yeah, but is this being expected? And we saw what T-Mobile did recently and said, well, that was an example of AI in motion. What are your thoughts on that?
so we need to parse there's different types of AI, right? You have your traditional AI, which is pattern recognition and structured data. Then you have your unstructured data. That's your Gen AI, your agentic AI, your physical AI. The traditional AI, yes, the telcos are using that, and they're using it for more use cases, like energy optimization, for example.
Well, that's the structured data.
Yes.
So basic databases, etc.
Yeah, with more advancement.
Yeah.
But I think where I'm not seeing that jump, that real spread, and the integration in the commercial side is on the agentic. And on the Gen AI, it's very specific to the chat interfaces, those types of things. Not really seeing it go beyond that. I am seeing a lot of traditional AI for more use cases. I am seeing that. One more thing that I didn't mention that I am seeing on the floor, but it's been a quiet, silent thing, is quantum computing.
Okay. But it's something that's been talked about for years and years and years and years. So what are they saying about it?
So what I've seen is that there is real traction in quantum. Every year I come here, I do see advancement. The amount of qubits, the chip design, the quantum computer engineering, how they're doing it, the requirements for the cooling, and the way that they're building it, the computers, you do see refinement, you see advancement there. So again, it's not front and center. Everybody's talking about AI, but if you really look closely, you can see that quantum, there is movement, and it's a small group of companies, right? IBM, the traditional suspects. On the telco side, I hear a lot of talk about quantum. We got to get ready for it. I'm not seeing investment, and I'm not seeing real commitment to investment. I'm seeing a lot of talk, committees, standards creation. It's still very preliminary, but if you look at the computer building of those computers and the algorithms that are going to be utilized for those computers, I am seeing advancement there.
Now, we're almost out of time, Chris. What are your predictions? Predictions seem like kind of a bit of but they're always interesting to predict as opposed to what do you see going on from now to the end of the year with, since we last spoke, we've seen SaaSmageddon, the introduction of vibe coding, the AI stock still hugely overvalued. But here at MWC, I think some of the predictions you make around sovereignty are truly fascinating. Where do you think we go from now to the end of the year?
So I think we're going to see a tremendous amount of government spending coming into the ecosystem at a level that is completely unprecedented. And I think that there's countries, so the sovereignty thing is such a big thing that the national security implications are so profound that we're going to see a lot of money coming in. And we already see it in the Middle East, for example, in Saudi Arabia, the sovereign wealth funds, they're deploying a lot of money in this stuff. In Europe, we're seeing money be deployed. There's money allocated. We're going to see more.
But is that less of an issue for the United States that is pretty much sovereign anyway? with its infrastructure? Or do you see this as, to our first question, our first point, an externality of the Trump regime and the, as Mark Carney put it, the rupture in the world order? Is that where that is being driven from, or do you think the United States is largely protected from?
So at the end of the day, we have the States has alliances and very, very, very important partnerships, and Trump 100% understands that. I look at it as a rebalancing of the Western order, rebalance of trade, rebalance of structures that have been in place for a long time. At the end of the day, everybody needs each other. Everybody's in this together, and there will be more partnership on certain things, maybe a little less in other areas. Obviously, countries have their own vested interests, and they have their own, risk models and mitigation things that they need to align with. But I think people are going a little bit too far in one direction, because the alliances that the States has with all of the Western countries remains
and will never
paramount.
be broken. Yeah.
That will not be broken. It won't be broken. Regardless of what people say and the fear that's being injected, that is not going to change. If anything, it's going to get even stronger, but maybe it might look a little different. That's what I think would be an outcome of that. And then you mentioned, multiple predictions. So one other prediction is, we've had SaaSmageddon. We've seen this rolling changes in expectations in the AI ecosystem. What we haven't seen yet is a bubble pop.
No.
And I want to be very, very clear. AI will profoundly change the entire world. That is not changing. However, how that happens and when is going to change. It's going to evolve. And there is too much over-provisioning on overestimation of what AI can do right now. There's also an overestimation of how many data centers can be built in a certain time frame and how much power can come online to support those data centers. That needs to get readjusted. It doesn't matter how much money the hyperscalers plow into AI or governments. At the end of the day, the money doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What matters is, do you have the input costs beyond the money to actually do this at scale? And the answer is no, not in the time scales that are being aligned with. That has to be fundamentally rethought of. And that has not happened yet. That will happen this year. I believe that will happen.
A recalibration.
Exactly. Recalibration.
Yeah. And I think it's, and the one thing I hear and read and see all the time, if you go back to the late 90s with the internet boom and then bubble burst, and you look at companies that are no longer with us, like Nortel, they built out the fiber optics and the infrastructure for the internet. They went all in on the internet. It went all the way to the top of the market capitalization charts, and then boom. And I remember I was working at Nortel at the time, and I saw the whole thing. And I don't want to, I've got to be careful I don't say anything about our partners that we work with. But a lot of people are making those comparisons. Do you believe it's comparable? And not Nortel, but just the extent of a bubble, or the extent of a recalibration.
You're making a parallel between the dot-com bubble and what's going on now. It's interesting because in the dot-com bubble, you had a lot of unprofitable companies. Now we're talking about a lot of profitable companies that are
just investing highly.
Yes, and taking on a lot of debt, right, and extending themselves. But these are not companies that are going to go bankrupt, right? The hyperscalers and stuff, they'll recalibrate. And they'll get stronger. They'll learn, they'll get stronger. The ecosystem will evolve, right? You will see some players go bust, but that's healthy. That for a market to function at its peak, or as close to that peak as possible, you need to go through those growing pains. And I think that's really what it's going to be. And AI is very important, not just for the AI itself, it's important for the grid, the energy grid. In the States, the energy grid is 50 plus years old. I mean, that's a huge problem. Like, we get a storm and everybody's freaking out. Like, are we going to have power? Like, this is a real fear. Rolling blackouts in California, right? Because the grid doesn't have resiliency, right? So with AI, you have companies that are really coming together and saying, like, we need to finally figure this stuff out.
And hence why nuclear stuff is up.
Yeah.
Right?
But anyway, that's brilliant, Chris. Any more predictions?
I got to be held to enough already, so I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
I'm going to quit while.
Well, it's moving crazily quickly right now. And then I know that we always get together every quarter and look at everything again, and it's the pace of change is so immense. It's massive. Now, we're coming to the end, and you know how we finish these things.
Yeah.
And I've just got to be careful that I don't mention the same ones we've done about your last 4 or 5 other appearances, but it's our TGI to go round.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah.
TGI to go.
Cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs, 100%.
You have a dog.
We did. She passed away recently.
I'm sorry. Barcelona is very much a dog city.
Yes, it is.
I've asked that question in 2 days now, around 10 times. Come back dogs every time. So I think that's a good thing for the dogs. You're going out for dinner tonight. We're in Barcelona. Paella or lasagna?
Lasagna. I'm ready for some lasagna.
Have you had paella yet? Probably.
No, I've had enough though in prior years where I'm paellaed out.
I was going to ask you as well, how was your dinner last night? Is it good with the...
It was good. It was good.
Are you coming for the Amdocs analyst?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Perfect. Baseball or football?
Football.
And obviously you live up in New Hampshire, right?
Yep.
So you're a Boston, New England.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the World Cup is coming to the USA. It's been featured heavily in our industry, and I've spoken to customers that they already have all their suites in their stadiums ready to go. Are you looking forward to the FIFA World Cup?
I am. I wanted to go, but I don't know if you know anything about getting tickets for that.
Yeah. But
Not only the cost for the worst possible seats, the cost of those seats alone, but just all of the logistics of getting there and everything. It just, we looked into it and were deterred pretty quickly from committing to actually going. I feel bad because I really wanted to do that, but
Well, and I have a similar thing. I live in Toronto. The opening game in Toronto is Canada versus, and they still haven't determined who that team would be because they've got to do the playoffs. One of the teams, one of the 4, could be my home country, Wales. Wow. Now, if Wales were playing Canada in the town I live in, I feel like I have to be there. But it's going to annoy my wife when I remortgage the house to Booster. You know what I mean? So,
the TVs are so good now, the immersiveness of them and the quality of the picture.
Yeah.
It's kind of nicer to watch it, with friends and family, in a setting.
Yeah.
It's a good experience,
And nothing's going to stop me from going downtown and just going into a pub with fellow brethren, countrymen, and enjoying that atmosphere. You know what I mean?
At the end of the day, it's about the community, and enjoying that moment with them.
Exactly. Instagram or TikTok? Which one do you frequent?
You know what? I'm going to say TikTok.
Wow.
I am, yeah.
So you've got a TikTok account, handle a
no comment, but let's just say I've used both.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that I like about TikTok. They give you very fast. I like the user experience a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the exposure that it gives, I think, is a little bit broader.
Yeah.
And it targets a broader array of people. So I think the exposure is a little bit better than Instagram. Instagram has some benefits as well, but off the top of my head, I can't think of them.
That's cool. And would you go skiing or biking? Where do you get out?
I'm gonna say biking. I didn't grow up skiing. I wish I did, because a lot of people around me do that, or snowboarding.
Yeah.
And I never had that experience growing up. I've skied the Bunny Hill before.
Real close to Vermont and pretty prominent ski areas as well, right?
I am, and that's why it's even that much worse that I don't do that. I don't participate. I have done it before, but watch out, because I'm coming down the hill and I don't know how to stop well. So yeah, biking, I can handle that, and I enjoy that,
Cool. Well, listen, Chris, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. I honestly feel like we go on for hours and hours and hours. I always feel when we record here in Barcelona, I'm tired, you're tired, we've got through huge long days, but still our conversation It was really, really cool and really, really insightful. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, thank you guys. What a great episode. They just get better every week. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Liliana, as well, for co-hosting the event with me. Always great to have Liliana on. So that's it. If you want to check out our past episodes and other assets related to not just this season, but the other 11 that precede this, you can find them all at amdocs.com/the great indoors. Remember to like, subscribe, or even leave a comment on what you think of the podcast on your favorite podcast channel. Guess what? Even send it to a friend or family member. So until next week, that will do us. So until next time, I'm Matthew Roberts for Amdocs in Barcelona, and have a great day wherever you are.